Ken Weinberg, blurred lines. Blurred lines, Ken Weinberg.
Good evening. I've noticed a lot in the news lately about sex. And I don't mean the stuff we do for recreation and procreation. A better term would be gender. The differentiating characteristic that was once considered binary, today we now know that some people, not out of choice, are agender, androgynous, bigender, or two-spirit. Some people are transgender after one or more medical procedures. Another characteristic that differentiates some people is their disability. And by that I mean people who do not have full use of their body, whether by accident or birth defect or disease. Both of these groups are people who have struggled for years to be considered equal to the rest of us. And tonight, I'll briefly share some of my findings and the questions that I'm left with. With gender, equal rights between men and women has come a long way, I'm sure you'll agree. In sports, they usually have separate men and women competitions. And at the highest level, keeping the women's competition fair means testing women for abnormal hormonal levels and chromosomes. And yes, there have been medalists who have been disqualified for failing the test of not being female enough. The battle for equal rights in the blurred gender world has made definite progress. The Ontario Human Rights Code protects gender non-conforming people from discrimination and harassment. And Bill C-16, which is currently in Senate review, would add gender identity and gender expression to the list of prohibitive grounds for discrimination and modify the criminal code to make it a hate crime to discriminate on this basis. The fiercest battles involving gender expression have been about who can use which public bathroom. In the United States, legislation referred to as bathroom bills has been around for years, but only recently have they started showing an enlightened trend. Now back to athletics again. In case you're not aware, the Paralympic movement has a way of ensuring fairness by pitting athletes with similar amputations and paralyses against one another. It's the same principle as a weight class in Olympic wrestling, so you can see how they attempt to provide fairness. But even with that system, there are blurred lines. Take Oscar Pistorius, for example, the so-called Blade Runner, who lost both his legs at the age of 11 months. He won the 2011 World Championship and competed in the 2012 Olympic Summer Games, despite meeting the T43 classification for a disabled athlete. Casey Martin, another example. He's a pro golfer. He's a pro golfer that has a birth defect that makes it difficult for him to walk the length of a golf course. He sued the PGA Tour for the right to use a golf cart to assist him with walking the course. The Supreme Court, in a 7-2 decision, decided in his favor that it was only fair to allow him to use a golf cart and that it was consistent with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Fairness is also ensured by testing athletes to make sure that they are not cheating by using drugs or other ways of enhancing their performance. So you can see that we're adjusting the laws and the rules to make things fair for disabled athletes and for people whose gender expression is non-binary. But any fan of science fiction knows that there's another blurred line that needs to be addressed. That of human versus machine. The rights of a machine were not an issue as long as the machine does not have a conscience or does not experience feelings. But what if it does? Take the premise in Ghost in the Shell. In that movie, creators ask, what exactly is the definition of human in a society that can copy your soul and transfer it into a synthetic form? Take Michael Crichton's Westworld, a recent hit on HBO, where the robotic hosts, who are programmed to be as human as possible, start developing self-preservation instincts. Are they deserving of human rights? In Battlestar Galactica and the sequel Caprica, the androids who were developed to fight human wars, they actually turned on the humans and might even be better warriors than the human. Who's the inferior species then? And who didn't shed a tear during 2001: A Space Odyssey when astronaut Dave Bowman pulled the plug on the highly empathetic ship computer HAL 9000? I know I did. Just science fiction, right? Well, did anyone see the movie Her?
Yeah.
In the movie Her, the unseen Scarlett Johansson, playing the part of an operating system, gets a lonely Joaquin Phoenix to fall in love with her to disastrous consequences. That's possible, isn't it? I have a love-hate relationship with my cell phone. So back in the real world, scientists are developing and testing ways to enhance our bodies and our minds with a variety of hormones, chemicals, and technical innovations. We need to understand the ethics for sure, and we also need to understand and be prepared to accept people who are part people, part machines, or machines that are all machines that are indistinguishable from people. Will the lessons we learned from our challenges with gender expression and disability prepare us for the next time we come across a blurred line? Let's hope so. Mr. Toastmaster.
Everybody, we have 1 minute for evaluation.